Today's podcast episode is sponsored by
Michael and Michelle Lassen, First State Bank Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender.
Visit us on our website at yourlakeloan.com. We want to be your home loan professionals, your lake lenders.
Season 6 with our Grow, Thrive, Inspire podcast, a podcast created to help you grow both personally and professionally, to thrive with clear goals and visions, and to inspire. So whether you're a full-time resident here at Lake of the Ozarks or a visitor or hope to be either in the future, we think that you're going to love this episode as much as we do. So today on the show, I'm super excited to highlight an amazing individual who has been a longtime developer, a local for many, many years, and involved in ownership and sales in lots of real estate here at the lake. So he has an extensive history at LOZ, opening several businesses on the Bagnell Dam Strip, owner of Ozark Realty, a husband and father of two beautiful young ladies, and mayor of Lake Ozark. My new friend, Mr. Dennis Newberry. Dennis, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to talk about your history and just get to know you more personally. So I just thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an exciting week, exciting to be here with young people that are in the real estate industry and or affiliates of that industry. And so it's exciting to watch that evolve. It's a tremendous change from when I entered the industry 30 years ago. But back to right now, exciting week. I'm starting campaigning as mayor. It's St. Pat's this weekend, so we'll have the St. Pat's Parade down on the Bagnell Dam Strip. And it's just an exciting week. So I'm glad to be here this morning.
That's awesome. Well, Dennis, I usually start every episode with you just telling me and our listeners just a little bit more about yourself and kind of where you found the passion to do what you do.
Sure. So I'm a Rolla native, born right here in central Missouri. And as a young person, my parents, we had a farm. My parents were in the insurance business. They had an insurance agency and a real estate brokerage. So I kind of grew up in that industry, worked hard, got out of bed early, had chores that we had to do. Very disciplined, and a big sports and outdoors person. I gravitated towards the lake and the lake lifestyle. So my parents would bring my sister and up here on weekends all summer long, provided we didn't work on the farm or have other things that were more pressing at that time. So we always look forward to our trips to the lake. Mm-hmm. And those trips here really molded my desire to be here at Lake of the Ozarks on a permanent basis. I always knew when I got out of school or college that I would be heading here or somewhere with a big body of water.
Now, you said at a young age that, you loved the lake. It kind of became your home. What did you love about it the most?
Well, this was in the 70s. So the Strip was popular in those days. There wasn't a whole lot of commercial development here. You could drive down 54 and you didn't see that many businesses. But it was the water. I learned to ski here. I had a jet ski in the, late 70s, early 80s. Mm-hmm. When jet skis were non-existent. So it was just all of the water sports and fishing, the outdoors for me. And the lake had a lot more to offer than just the farm.
Well, I love that. And then as you were, getting your feet wet here and solidifying your roots, you started getting into real estate, started your own company. What was that like, your real estate journey here at the lake?
Well, again, having that background from my parents.
Were your parents agents?
They were. They owned a real estate brokerage in Rolla.
Oh, okay.
Not here at the lake. But in fact, the first person I affiliated with was John and Yvonne Vogel, who were partners with a Rolla engineer, Jerry Gilmore, who owned part of their real estate brokerage here, and he was the original owner, investor, and developer of Big Surf Water Park.
Oh, okay.
And some other Rolla investors. So they got my foot in the door in their real estate business here. And then, as fate would have it, I met Jeff Krantz a few years later. I believe I moved here in 93, so this is my 30th year in the real estate industry. Wow. Of course, I wasn't immediately in real estate. I had a job selling boats and to make a paycheck, because you don't break into estate making money overnight. But I met Jeff Krantz, and Jeff was very instrumental in having me join his office, and he had just recently moved from Lake Realty. My mind, I don't recall who his broker was, but I used to know him very well. But Jeff had moved to Remax, and it was like a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
And he introduced me to that, and I really appreciate the Krantzes taking me in at that time, because without their influence at that time, I don't know that I would be where I'm at today.
No, that's awesome. I know that they truly appreciate you. So I think that that's such a cool story. They are just, it's hard to not like be inspired when you're around Jeff or
Yeah.
Mel, you know?
Right. Jeff's never had a gloomy day.
Yeah. So you and your wife, Tanya, have been longtime developers, and that kind of focused around the Bagnell Dam Strip, and you formed the Bagnell Dam Association, correct? To kind of revitalize that. So tell me what that process was like.
So again, recalling on my youth and how much fun we had on the Strip in the '80s, there was all kinds of things to do, and the people that criticize where the Strip is today by mainly having adult themed businesses there isn't much for families to do. They're correct to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a young person, there was an awful lot of things to do, bumper cars and all of those things that you would think about in a tourist destination in the 70s and 80s. And so recalling that and how much fun I had with my friends and family, I guess probably by mid-90,
Mm-hmm.
I was making enough money to invest in real estate. And so I started purchasing real estate on the Strip with the intent to have a meaningful impact on the future of the Strip. Because a lot of those buildings were built not for the purpose of operating year round. They didn't have conventional HVAC systems in them and plumbing and whatnot. So I started acquiring property in the mid-90s, and ultimately, as of about 8-9 years ago, I had about 14 properties that we owned on the Strip.
Wow, that's a short amount of time too. That's amazing.
Yes.
So, how far, in your opinion, how far has the Strip come from back then until now? Like, what else might be coming too?
Well, again, when the Strip kind of got out of its heyday in the late 80s, 90s, into the early 2000s, there wasn't much new businesses being started, and some of those businesses had kind of went to the wayside. And many of our motels weren't reinvested,
Mm-hmm.
and so they weren't staying up with the times. And having lost those motels made a significant impact on who was coming to the Strip.
Mm-hmm.
So you had asked previously my role in the Bagnell Dam Strip Association. I created a group that originally started as the Lake Betterment Board, I believe is what I called it. And I got to know the Page brothers very well, who
Mm-hmm.
own all the businesses up at the top of the Strip, Dog Patch and the Leatherman and Summer USA. So I met Joe and Mike Page over the years, and we collaborated and created the BDSA with the intent to rebrand and bring back the events that were missing, because many of those events weren't happening anymore.
Okay.
So we brought the events back, such as Hot Summer Nights and the car show, Magic Dragon car show, the street meet with the shootout
Mm-hmm.
kind of evolved into that. And there's many other, the duck drop. There's probably a dozen different events that happen down there. Bike Fest is a big one. So those things were all, we mentored that and helped those things transition into what they are today. And the other goal was to redevelop the Strip,
Mm-hmm.
which I think I had an awful lot of influence on, being the catalyst of what's down there now, but there's still a whole lot more to come. I mean, I think we're still in our infancy at this point.
Oh, well, that's really exciting to hear, though, because I too think that being a lake local, think that the path of that Strip probably has a lot of potential still to keep growing and keep evolving. So I'm excited to hear that you also agree that it's kind of in that infancy stage still. So that's really cool.
Well, you might not know this, but one owner owns about 85% of the Strip now.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that it will not be much longer, and we will be learning of a project that will start there that I would imagine would be similar to Branson Landing,
Oh,
but
okay.
hopefully Branson Landing times 10,
Yeah.
with more family integrated things to do. the topography down there, you've got a river,
Yes.
you've got a lake, you got the dam, you got the strip. All of that brings to the perfect place to put that type of development, an entertainment district, as I would refer to it. So probably residential components, built-in retail buildings, and similar to what is in Branson Landing. But then if you got sky rides that go across the river and
That would be cool.
those types of things, I think it could be a very unique destination in the Midwest.
Yeah, I do too. That's exciting, and I mean the Branson Landing. That's a really cool place, but to know that it could be even potentially more awesome.
Right,
Holy cow!
Right.
So let's switch to your mayor role. Let's put mayor hat on,
All right.
okay? So you were the first write-in candidate to win mayor of Lake Ozark. So that must have been amazing. What was that like?
At the time, it was a bit surreal.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't planned, and it was just a set of circumstances that were going on in our community that I felt like it was time that somebody stepped in and took over the role of being a quality leader for our town. I moved off Horseshoe Bend a few years before I became mayor into a property that we had been assembling for a long time, a lakefront parcel. And so that made me eligible to participate in municipal government because I lived in the city limits of Lake Ozark now instead of Four Seasons. And so some of the business owners and residents reached out to me in a very short time frame. I mean, I literally had about 48 hours to consider doing it. I sat down with Tanya, talked to her and my girls, and ultimately decided to throw my hat in the ring as a write-in candidate. And I think 17 days later, I became the mayor of Lake Ozark.
When you put your name down, when you were like writing it down, did you even think you'd win it?
Well, I hope this doesn't come across egotistical, but I honestly knew that I would win.
That's cool.
When I went to the courthouse in Miller County and signed, and of course I know a lot of the staff there being in the real estate profession, one of them remarked, "Why are you doing this? You're going to have one heck of a headache on your shoulders." And I said, "Because our town needs it."
Aw.
And I signed, and I remember leaving and having all these thoughts like, what in the hell did I just do?
Yeah.
But I probably even shed a tear because I was going back to my wife and kids at home still, and knowing that our next couple of years were going to be a whole lot more complicated than they ever had been. We were living a life that was pretty comfortable.
Right.
And it's, the mayor role isn't all that fun to me. It's work, it's hard work. But the accomplishments that I know that we're doing, and we're doing some heavy lifting that I don't think anybody prior would have considered doing,
Right.
or had the skill set to do it. And so for that purpose, I'm very excited to be in that role, and I do plan on being mayor for 2 more years.
Well, I'm
running
excited.
right now.
Oh, you're running right now? Okay.
Yeah, the election's April 4th.
Awesome.
So we just started campaigning this week. In fact, yesterday I was out putting up signs, and we'll be putting out more signs over the next 3 or 4 days, and then I'll be knocking on doors.
Well, I'm very grateful that you chose to step into that role. I kind of want to talk about, if you can, just some of your goals or important subjects that you have being the mayor of Lake Ozark. What are some big things happening or goals that you're trying to achieve?
So if you think about government in its simplest form, government is here to protect its citizens, right? To offer services such as sewer, water, roads, police, EMS, fire. Of course, Lake Ozark doesn't own our own fire department. Our fire department's its own entity, but we work closely together. But those are the types of services that your tax dollars are used for, or should be used for, if they're being used correctly.
Yeah.
And so my goals are to, one, identify the things that I think we shouldn't be spending taxpayers' dollars on. And I think I've got a pretty good grasp on that. There's still room to improve on that. There always is. But I think I've already made a lot of headway there in cutting costs and things that just didn't make sense
Right.
to be doing. And that's saved the citizens well over $100,000 a year by the things that we have went away from doing. Beyond that, infrastructure is my biggest goal. I mean, our roads are some of the worst roads in the entire lake area. When you come off of Horseshoe Bend and you go through Lake Ozark and then you get back onto Osage Beach Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
It's like night and day difference between, we got these beautiful roads flanking us on both sides, and then you go through Lake Ozark. And what it amounts to is just poor leadership. I mean, they can point fingers that it was this reason or that reason, but at the end of the day, if you had good leadership, you would have been planning on saving the money to sustain those roads 20 years ago.
Right.
They didn't get in bad shape overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not just our roads, our sewer infrastructure, our water infrastructure. We have residents in Lake Ozark that are in the city limits that still aren't serviced by our sewer system.
Oh, wow.
And we have others that still aren't serviced by our water system.
Wow. Yeah,
So
makes sense.
those are my biggest priorities. And I think one more term as mayor, I will have a road project that I think that any prior leadership would have a difficult time pulling back from.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my goal, is to get that in play. In fact, I believe we will be voting in front of our board of aldermen at our next board a project that will be proposing a portion of Bagnell Dam Boulevard to be resurfaced,
Oh, awesome.
and a couple of other roads. If that goes through, that project will start in 2024, next year.
Oh, yay. I hope
So,
it's so.
I've been mayor for 23 months, and we haven't spent any money on our roads in years. And here we are 23 months later, and we're going to be doing several $1 million worth of road projects, and we're not borrowing the money.
Yeah, that's
In
amazing.
fact, here's a point that your listeners should know. When I became mayor, our city budget was allocating $25,000 to road capital improvement projects. $25,000.
Okay.
That would not even do a third of my driveway.
Yeah, no.
Right?
Yeah.
So what's that going to do for our roads?
Yeah.
I have that at $450,000 now,
Oh, okay.
without
Yeah.
raising taxes. That's a 1,700% increase.
Wow. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And my goal is actually to get that to $1 million. So
Yeah.
that will be doubling where we're at today.
So, for our listeners and myself being part of the community, how could we help for more of like Lake Ozark's improvement, or just Lake Ozark as a whole? How could we get involved to help you help that?
Well, look at it like your experience here at RE/MAX and with what you're doing in marketing. Certainly there's strong people in an organization like this. We picked on Jeff and Mel earlier. Their talents are tremendous, but there are many others in the organization. So if you've got good leadership, what does that leadership do? They engage others. You have to come together as a community. Dennis Newberry can't save Lake Ozark,
Right.
but Dennis Newberry, with many others that buy in with Dennis's objectives, are how you get things done. And so I think I've done a better job at that as mayor than I probably have in a personal way in my own businesses. But I've engaged a lot of folks.
Okay.
I've got business owners, I've got residents, and I've created a committee on almost every big topic we do. And so that's how you can help us. You can get involved. Go to our meetings. We weren't live streaming our board meetings. We are now.
Oh, cool.
So that makes it easier for our population to engage us and ask questions and learn how we're doing and conducting business. And if they want to get involved, that's one way. Of course, they can always reach out to us, at City Hall or via email. But I would encourage anybody that really has an interest in assisting, whether it's Lake Ozark or Osage Beach or Camdenton, whatever town, to get involved, get on a committee, and start learning about what your city government is doing and help influence the decision making.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. So more support, better leadership, and then continuing the path of sustaining that leadership and promoting it.
Promoting it, yes.
That's not a word. Okay. So with the increase of growth in Lake Ozark that we've seen, through COVID, and not just at Lake Ozark, the lake as a whole, how do you see just Lake Ozark in particular changing and growing and the future there?
Well, Lake Ozark, quite honestly, since I have such a history here, it hasn't changed much, the city itself, in 30 years. In fact, you could say it's went backward because we've lost quite a few of our businesses on the Strip. Some of those things, it's just a matter of the evolution of our country and how things are developing. In a post-COVID world, and just the change in retail sales and how they are conducted today versus when I was a kid, it's much different. We used to go to brick and mortar to buy our shoes, to buy anything.
Right.
And then you got box stores, which changed the way we did retail sales tremendously because you had stores like Walmart. Then Mr. Bezos came out with Amazon.
Yep, that
and
really
now-
changed the game.
It certainly has, and so you have all that online retail sales. So the brick and mortar is hard to convince to come into a third or fourth class city because we don't have the density. We don't have the population to support it. You can build brick and mortar in Columbia, Missouri, or perhaps even in Rolla, or certainly in St. Louis and Kansas City, but you can't do it in a third or fourth class city and expect it to be sustainable. I don't think you could build an outlet mall here today like we had in Osage Beach and it be able to be successful like it was
I agree.
previously. It just can't happen. So what you have to do is evolve with how the retail market in that segment is. We have to think about how we're going to tax sales because retail sales in a third and fourth class city is how you fund your city.
Yeah.
So without that retail sales, you have no money to build your roads and maintain your 90 miles of sewer and water system. So what do? You have to get creative and think of different taxation forms. But I don't think anybody in our city government had considered that in the last decade.
I would agree with you. What's interesting about that particular subject, though, is what I'm hearing is, you know, even though you have big players like Amazon, Walmart, things like that, that people are kind of flocking more towards like a boutique experience. Like you've seen boutiques kind of have a comeback level because they're providing not only the retail service, but that overall experience. Would you think that like more boutiques might pop up around that area or maybe even on the Strip?
I certainly do. And not only boutique, but having businesses that have a form of entertainment. And hey, that works well in a tourist town, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about the experience like a Topgolf, that's not going to play a round of golf, but it's going to have a similar experience where you can also have a beer with your friends and watch TV screens and, you know, joke, and it's a different experience. So those types of experiences, I think, will ultimately lead retail in a third and fourth class town, a small town.
Okay.
Urban markets are always going to have traditional shopping, but even their traditional shopping is going to probably change from what it has been historically.
Right. I love that. Well, one other question that I have is with the new influx of people moving here, are there any changes happening in Lake Ozark that would help more people come to our area or be able to experience the lake? I'm not sure what you're seeing as far as that is concerned.
Well, again, we've lost a whole lot of motels, resorts, mom and pop resorts over the years, most of which have been purchased and a developer comes in and builds condos. And then you have limited access to the lake market. You know, that particular family that bought a condo here has access, but what about the family that either doesn't desire to own a condo here or might not have the financial capacity to, but would like to come here once a year? We really haven't had any meaningful reinvestment in the hotel hospitality resort development. But you can see that's changing. I mean, look what Fred Ross has just proposed in Osage Beach with his development.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
it's unbelievable. And those are the types of things that I think you will see. I think the time is here. It's been here for quite a while, but we're being recognized on a national level. And I think that you're going to see that happen. So my response is hotels, motels, the hospitality industry, it's coming. I can't tell you exactly when, but there's no doubt it is coming. And then I think we will reclaim our once somewhat pinnacle position as a huge tourist destination in the state of Missouri. We're still a popular tourist destination, but we don't have the accommodations that we once had. If you compare us to Branson, we don't scratch the surface of what they can host, and I think we will in time.
I do too. I agree. Okay, last question, kind of a rapid fire, getting back to you personally.
Yes.
First one is, what is an area of growth you want to experience either personally or professionally?
Well, candidly, a relationship that you have with your spouse in a business world is quite challenging. Jeff and Mel do it. Tanya and I do it. I would like to spend more quality time with my kids and my wife and start smelling the roses a little bit more.
Yeah.
I know that might not be possible for 2 more years, but I do want to grow in that. I want to grow on my faith and my connection with God, And I want to give back because this community is really what's made my family and the things that we've done and been successful with possible.
Absolutely.
And I love to see other successes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll point out Anna Marie and Travis Hopkins.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. They weren't a part of our community, and as
Mm-hmm.
real estate professionals in 2 years, I mean, they're at the top. They're performing at the very top levels. And I love to see that success.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to invest in young folks. My grandparents and my parents were tremendously influential in supporting me, not just financially, but just the support, you know, the wisdom that they could pass on, and knowing that they were there behind you if you had a hiccup. you
Yeah.
know. And so I like seeing young people getting in business. I've helped some financially, and I want to continue to do those types of things and encourage the youth to get involved and become entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I love that. I have a very similar passion, so it speaks to my heart. Okay, last two. In what area do you think you're currently thriving?
Oh boy. You're asking me to toot my own horn.
I am.
I would like somebody else to answer that question.
Yeah. Tanya's not here.
Yeah.
Tanya, I'm sorry. Tanya's not here.
So thriving, I would say that at the municipal level, things have certainly, when I came in, it was a real challenge. In fact, there was a lot of pushback.
Right.
City Hall with other elected officials, and that's all sort of went away. And it didn't just go away, but it totally did a 180, and now it's going in the direction that my vision was. And so I would say I'm thriving on the mayor side of things. We're thriving in real estate, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to in the last few years. That's changing quickly,
Yep.
as you know. But I would just say overall thriving that I've opened myself up a lot more to the community than I had for decades. I'd kind of flown under the radar for the most part, other than the things that I was specifically involved in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people didn't even recognize who I really was. I mean, knew my name, but had no idea, like you, with the Bagnell Dam Strip Association and the involvement
Yeah,
and the
no
things
idea.
that we did on the strip.
Yeah. So, okay, last one. What inspires you?
Well, I would go back. I get a lot of inspiration out of watching successful young people. My oldest daughter, Britton, has now joined our real estate office, and it excites me to see her
That's so
take
exciting.
on things that, in a different way than I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a difficult relationship to have too.
Yeah, I bet.
But I've watched many families, especially large families that I know that are 6, 7 siblings and their parents own a business. And now you've got 6 or 7 siblings attempting to assimilate with one another in mom and dad's business. It's tough, but it's fun to watch the youth and get engaged with them on the types of businesses they want to get involved in.
I love
And
that.
I would love to be an investor in that. In fact, Tanya and we have created a 501c3. It's funded, and we've self-funded it. It will be supporting child sexual assaults
Oh, yeah.
in our community and the victims of that. But I just haven't had time to launch it because of my mayor role, so I've had to put the pause button on that, but I hope to enroll that next year.
Oh, I'm a huge supporter of that.
So those are the types of things that I look forward to doing in the future.
I love that. Well, Grow, Thrive, Inspire listeners, we could not be more thankful to Dennis for giving us a sneak peek into his life as mayor and developer here at Lake of the Ozarks. We look forward to seeing much more of Dennis and Tanya in the future and appreciate the impact that they're having here. Dennis, if someone wanted to reach out to you, how could they go about doing so?
Well, they can always email me at citynewberry@cityoflakeozark.net. If it's real estate related, my email is dnewberry@lakeozarkrealty.com. My cell's available online, and of course you can reach me at City Hall as well. And then we have a website that I created for the mayor to promote our businesses in Lake Ozark, which is explorelakeozark.com.
Okay, awesome. We have more episodes coming, so be sure to tune back in on Wednesdays and like and subscribe to all the pages. Again, we're everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, all the places. A huge thank you to our sponsor too, Michael and Michelle Lassen with First State Bank Mortgage, and they are at yourlakeloan.com. And remember to always grow, thrive, and inspire, and we'll catch you next time.